welcome to Hashimoto's Unfiltered, real talk, real solutions. The podcast where we cut through the noise and get straight to the heart of living with Hashimoto's. My name is Dr. Ray Benedetto, your host, and I'm here to share my expertise, personal insights, and from time to time, conversations with incredible guests to help you take control of your health. Together, we'll explore actionable items, debunk myths, and navigate the complexities of your thyroid health. So whether you're newly diagnosed or a seasoned warrior, this is your space for unfiltered truth and real hope. Let's dive in. The topic of today's discussion is Hashimoto's and iodine. Yes or no? It's a question I get a lot. And it's a question I'm sure you have a lot. And there's a lot of bad advice going on around out there about iodine. And you'll see a lot of thyroid supplements, for example, that are sold to people with thyroid problems that contain lots of iodine. Now, let's start at the beginning. There's two different things we're talking about here. Number one is, what is the most common cause of hypothyroidism or underactive thyroid in the world? Okay, let's talk about the whole planet. The number one cause of that is, yes, iodine deficiency. So in many parts of the world, the diet that's eaten by people that live there is deficient in iodine. Iodine is a crucial micronutrient. We need iodine to make thyroid hormones. When you see these levels on your blood work, guys, T3 and T4, the number 3 and 4 is how many iodines are attached to the base molecule. A T3 has 3, a T4 has 4, obviously. So yes, it is, of course, a vital micronutrient that we need to make thyroid hormones. So what happens is in many parts of the world, the diets are not rich in iodine. So the people who live there develop iodine deficiencies. And that iodine deficiency can lead to hypothyroidism because you don't have enough iodine in your body to make thyroid hormones. Hope that makes sense. That's number one. Number two, the most common cause of hypothyroidism in the United States, which is where I'm speaking from and where 98% of my patients reside, is in the United States of America. Yes, I'm international, but most of my patients live in the US. The number one cause, and we could throw in other industrialized nations here as well, like some Europe and Australia and all this kind of stuff, Canada. The most common cause of hypothyroidism in the United States and in some of those places is not iodine deficiency. We get plenty of iodine in our diet. The most common cause here and in many of those places is autoimmune disease. It is Hashimoto's and Graves' disease. Okay, so it is not iodine deficiency. It is autoimmune disease, by far the most common cause in the United States. So in the world, in total, in general, yes, it's iodine deficiency. In the United States and in a lot of industrialized countries, it's not iodine deficiency. We get plenty of iodine in our diet. It is autoimmune disease. Okay, Hashimoto's and Graves. Now, that's not to say that we don't need iodine still. We do. We want to get it from our diet, which we usually do in this country enough of. So we don't necessarily need to supplement. The challenge with supplements is that they're usually upwards of about 200 micrograms of iodine, which is a pretty good amount. Now, what is the danger in taking iodine? And I'm not saying I don't have my Hashimoto's patients supplement with iodine sometimes, but it's not the first line of defense. And what's the danger in doing it, especially at higher levels? So here's what happens when you supplement with iodine, especially without taking care of the other stuff. You guys have heard me ramble on for a long time on these talks about taking care of the fundamentals, taking care of addressing the autoimmune problem first, taking care of inflammation, huge, gut healing, gut repair, calming down the immune system, detoxification, those kinds of things that need to be done first, eliminating things like pathogens, that kind of stuff, parasites. So those things need to be done first, always, regardless. Like non-starter, those things have to be done before we can do anything about worrying about, hormones and foods and, and this kind of stuff. Like, do I supplement with iodine? So we got to do those things first. That aside, supplementing with iodine can have a big consequence. And that consequence is the production of what's known as TPO, or thyroid peroxidase, which is an enzyme. Now, and this is why, again, conventional advice, conventional medicine often suggests, oh, you have a thyroid problem, take iodine. This can be disastrous for somebody who has Hashimoto's. And here's why. So TPO, and again, many of you have probably seen this before on your blood work, or you're familiar with what this is. At least you've seen it before. If you've been diagnosed, you most likely were diagnosed because you had TPO antibodies. So TPO is an enzyme, thyroid peroxidase. It's an enzyme, and it's an enzyme that it works in your thyroid, like in the gland, and it helps to make thyroid hormones. So what it does is it takes these iodine and it attaches them to the base molecule. Remember I said that 3 or that 4 is how many iodine are attached. Well, the TPO enzyme helps to take those raw iodine and attach them to that base molecule to make the thyroid hormones, to make T3 and make T4, right? To produce them. So it's an important enzyme. We need it. But many of you have also seen on your blood work TPO antibodies. So part of the attack on the person with an autoimmune thyroid condition is they make antibodies against the TPO enzyme. Like, that's what the immune system is attacking, is that enzyme. Now, if we supplement with high doses of iodine, for example, again, a lot of times is 200 micrograms is a lot of iodine. If we supplement with larger amounts of iodine in someone who already has Hashimoto's, we could basically be throwing gasoline on a fire, because what that increased iodine is going to do is going to increase the production of TPO antibodies. So the more iodine that's around, the more TPO enzyme your body's going to make, because it's like, wow, we got all this iodine floating around. We need to make more thyroid peroxidase enzyme, so that way we can take all this extra iodine and make thyroid hormones. So your body will produce thyroid peroxidase, the enzyme, in response to the iodine that's around, which, again, we usually get enough of what we need in our diet. But if you take it on top of that, extra iodine, high doses, your body's going to make more TPO enzyme in order to produce more thyroid hormones. Hypothetically, that's a good thing. But in somebody with Hashimoto's, your immune system's already attacking the TPO enzyme. So if we artificially take supplemental iodine and artificially increase our production of TPO enzyme, your immune system can increase its production of TPO antibodies. So if there's more enzymes around, there's more targets around to shoot at, then your immune system can shoot more bullets, if that makes sense. So we could be actually making the problem worse by taking iodine and, kind of throwing the proverbial gas can on top of the Hashimoto's fire. That is why I don't recommend higher dose iodine supplementation right out of the gates. That is why. So, and again, I'm not saying I don't do it, but it's not the first thing I do, okay, with my patients. And that's why. That is the reason why. To summarize, in the world, the number one cause of Hashimoto, or of hypothyroidism, is iodine deficiency. Okay. That's in the world. That is not in the United States. So yes, most of the world, if you have hypothyroidism, you take iodine. It will help you. We've all seen pictures of, sub-Sahara Africa, right? With people with gigantic goiters. That's because they don't get iodine in their diet. That's the number one cause in the world. The number one cause in the United States is autoimmune disease. And that autoimmune disease, most of the time, involves the production of TPO antibodies. Your immune system makes TPO antibodies to attack the TPO enzyme. If someone with Hashimoto's supplements with higher dose of iodine, okay, this is kind of in summary, right? Then the potential is there for their body to start making more TPO enzyme to deal with all the excess iodine to try and produce more thyroid hormones. This in turn can lead to increased production of TPO antibodies because now we have more TPO enzyme to target. So this can potentially ramp up someone's autoimmune situation or their autoimmune attacks against them. That's the mechanism. And that's why I don't recommend thyroid iodine supplementation right away. Again, I'm not saying it's bad for everyone. I'm saying it's not the first thing that we do. And unfortunately, conventional medicine, that's the recommendation right out of the chute is you have low thyroid, you have a sluggish thyroid, you have hypothyroidism, take iodine. If you have Hashimoto's, it's ideally not the best first step. There are many other steps that would come before that. So I hope that makes sense to everybody. I hope that kind of for once and for all puts the iodine thing to bed. And now I have this recorded. So now anytime in the future, anybody ever asks me this question, I can point them to this recording and they can get the story. But that's the story with iodine, gang. Not saying it should be out, but it's not the first line of defense for somebody with Hashimoto's. It can and many times does make them worse by ramping up the immune attacks. I want to thank you for tuning in to Hashimoto's Unfiltered, Real Talk, Real Solutions. Again, my name is Dr. Ray Benedetto, and I hope today's episode helped to give you the tools and the insights you need to take another step forward on your Hashimoto's journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode if you think someone could benefit. You can also connect with me on Facebook at Dr. Ray Benedetto and on my website, drraybenedetto.com for more resources and updates. Until next time, remember, you're not alone and real solutions are always within reach. Take care and be well.